Welcome to another edition of The Rundown. Hope you guys all enjoyed your Thanksgiving and Black Friday. I'm going to be breaking down the Thursday games, the Friday game between Chicago and Philadelphia, and also the Sunday game between Indiana and Houston. And of course, I have to talk about Lane Kiffin and that whole saga. But first, let's talk about Chiefs and Cowboys. The Cowboys defeated the Big Bad Wolf. Even though the Chiefs aren't the big bad wolf this season, historically they have been, and there's still teams that are still scared to play them, even though they do look more vulnerable this season than they have in past seasons. And it looks like the Cowboys have really turned a corner after being down 21-0 to Philadelphia. I thought it was over for them, but they came back, and against the Chiefs when Dak threw an interception on one of the first plays of the game and giving the Chiefs good field position, and then them being able to capitalize off that with the Rashee Rice screen pass and them getting a touchdown in the opening moments of the game. I thought, ooh, things are going to look dicey for the Cowboys. I mean, we all know about Dak's history in the postseason and how if things don't start off well, things can kind of go downhill from there. But he was able to bounce back. He threw a couple of decent completions to CD on some third downs, and all of a sudden, Dallas ties this bad boy up at 7-7. Mahomes comes back though and gets a touchdown to make it 14-7. And I'm just thinking, oh no, this game is going to be a shootout, and Dallas once again is going to have to go band for band with another team because their defense is so awful. But I was wrong because Kansas City's offense got stymied. They punted the ball a couple times, and Dallas gets a field goal and a touchdown, and all of a sudden they're up 17-14. And the Chiefs, they had a lot going against them. Josh Simmons got hurt in the game. Trey Smith was already out, so they were down some of their most important linemen. And Mahomes got sacked 3 times and faced 9 quarterback hits, and that's his biggest kryptonite we've seen in the Super Bowl against Tampa Bay and last year against Philadelphia, is that if you can get a lot of pressure to him, he tends to struggle. And Dallas, though, time after time, they made some big throws on third downs. They were 9 of 16 on third down. Trent McDuffie, he flat out got cooked by CeeDee Lamb. Just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Trent McDuffie, he really had a rough day. But there's one play I want to talk about where Kansas City lost the game. It's the fourth quarter, and it's about 9.5 minutes left. It's 3rd and 8. They're at their own 41-yard line. They're down 28-21. Mahomes throws to Rice over the middle, and they can't connect. And that honestly ended the game because Dallas comes down and they get a field goal with 5 minutes left. And honestly, that practically ended the game for all intents and purposes. Although Mahomes, he made a valiant effort to try to get the Chiefs back in the game. With a little under 4 minutes left on a 3rd and 6, he escapes rushers and does his magic and throws a 43-yard bomb to Xavier Worthy. They get a touchdown with 3 minutes and 27 seconds left, down 31-28. And all they needed was one stop, and Mahomes has an opportunity to get the ball back to either tie this game or up or potentially get a touchdown and win the game. But Kansas City's defense couldn't do that. Dallas is able to get a couple first downs, and they're able to run out the clock. And that's just been the theme of Kansas City's defense this year. They can't get critical stops when it matters the most. They couldn't get it against the Jags when the Jaguars were at the goal line and one of Trevor Lawrence's offensive linemen steps on his foot. He stumbles down, and he's still able to run in to get a touchdown. And Chris Jones, we all know, on that play had piss poor effort. And then against the Chargers in the opener in Brazil, when the Chargers had the ball with 2 minutes left and it's 3rd and 14 and they're down, and the Chiefs are down 6, and Justin Herbert is able to escape Chris Jones, and he gets the first down, and they're able to knee out the clock. So it just feels like this team, the Chiefs, they just don't have enough juice this year. I think that they have to practically win out in order to have a shot to get into the dance, and I just don't think they'll be able to do it. I know it's Mahomes and Reed, but I just don't think they got it this year. I mean, the fact that they've just been up and down, I just don't see how they're going to be able to turn it around. And offensively, it hasn't been the same for the past couple of years, honestly. Last year, it was injuries to Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown. And this year, I don't know, they just go through too many lows where it just doesn't seem like they have enough juice offensively. And defensively, like I talked about, they just don't have it. They just can't get critical stops. Last year, their defense was amazing, and this year, it just hasn't been. And on average, in losses, they're giving up an average of 26.5 points. And I just think that the Chiefs, they just need a refresh here. They just need to they're probably going to miss the playoffs. They just need to evaluate and go back to the drawing board and see where they need talent on their offense, what changes they need to make on their defense, if they need to make any changes, and just see where they can get better. And the Chiefs are really going to have to study on how they can get better, because this division, you can't feast on it anymore like they've been able to do in the past, or like how Brady and Belichick were able to do in the past when they had their run going, because the Broncos, they're going to be good with Sean Payton for the foreseeable future. With the Chargers, they're going to be good with Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert in the foreseeable future. The Chiefs were able to luck out to a degree with the Chargers just having bad head coaches until Jim Harbaugh came on board. And now it looks like the Broncos are starting to get their act together. The Raiders, that's the only team they're going to be able to feast on, because the Raiders, for the life of them, they're just not going to be able to figure it out. And they're probably going to need to fire their head coach. And I don't know if they're going to make a decision to move on from quarterback or not, but it looks like they're going to continue to rebuild. And I got to give credit to the Cowboys. It looks like they're back in the race. I thought they were dead. I left them for dead. I thought there wasn't a chance in hell they were going to be able to make the postseason. And it's still very unlikely, but they have a puncher's chance now. They're still going to need to win out, which, I mean, is still a little unlikely. I think Green Bay and Seattle are probably in as wild cards, so that probably leaves one spot. And right now, Detroit, the Niners, and Dallas are gunning for it. And Detroit, I get the feeling that they're probably done. I'll talk more about that a little bit later in the next segment about how they're done. But if Dallas can beat Detroit, then that practically ends Detroit's chances. And I think it's probably going to be, Dallas and the Niners gunning for that last playoff spot. So we'll see. San Francisco's got the Bears, the Colts, the Hawks as their hard game. So we'll see what they'll be able to do. Detroit's got Dallas, Mini, and Chargers as their hard game. I know it's crazy to say that about Mini, considering how inept their quarterback play is, but still, they have a pretty good defense with Brian Flores. So, yeah, if the Niners can lose against can lose both against the Hawks and Colts, and if Dallas can win out, they certainly got a shot of going in, and they certainly also have a shot of winning their division, because it really looks like the Eagles are reeling really badly. But anyways, I want to move on to Green Bay and Detroit. The Packers won 31-24, and to say the least, this game was a shootout. And I've talked ad nauseum just about how Green Bay, it just doesn't look like they've been anything special in their offense, whether it's running the ball or passing the ball, but they had it going this game. Jordan Love was 18 for 30, 234 yards, and Green Bay was very aggressive on fourth down this game. They were 3 for 3 on fourth down, and they converted a crucial third down in the second quarter on 4th and 2, where Jordan Love is able to find Dontavian Wicks in the end zone, and Green Bay was able to go up 10-0 in the second quarter. And Detroit was at a slight disadvantage with them losing Amon-Ra going out with an ankle injury. But honestly, I really don't want to hear it, because Green Bay, they are also at a disadvantage because Jaden Reed was out. Tucker Kraft tore his ACL and he's been out. So Green Bay didn't have their premier weapons either. So I don't want to hear the excuses about them losing Amon-Ra. But second quarter, I will say, I think Jared Goff started to get a little bit more comfortable. He was like 0 for 3 in the first quarter, just was not very good. And they were talking about in the broadcast on how, like, Dan Campbell probably had to shuffle some things around, considering they lost their premier number 1 wide receiver. So kudos to him. First possession of the second quarter, Jared Goff was able to find Jameson Williams for 22 yards. That got him going. And in that drive, he really made some clutch throws. On a 3rd and 13, he found Tom Kennedy down the middle for 23 yards. That got him in the red zone. And then, boom, they get a touchdown. And all of a sudden, Detroit is only down 10-7. But after that, Green Bay gets a touchdown. And they're up 17-7. And at that point, you can tell that they needed to go band to band with Green Bay in order to have a chance to win that game. And luckily, Detroit was able to get a touchdown before the half to get them down 17-14. And they got the ball back at the beginning of the third quarter. So you can either tie this baby up or take a lead. And the Lions did absolutely nothing. They're at 3rd and 2 on Green Bay's 47. They give it to Gibbs. He gets stuffed. And then they go for it on 4th and 2, which honestly I was okay with. He gets it again. Gibbs, and they get stuffed again. And it's a turnover on downs, and Green Bay comes down, gets a touchdown, and it's 24-14. And I just did not like Dan Campbell's play calling in critical situations in that game. Fourth down, he wasn't good. 0 for 3, had some bright spots, but you can really tell that Detroit is missing Ben Johnson. And beginning of the season, we were like, oh no, they're going to miss Ben Johnson really badly. And then Detroit wins some games, and we're like, okay, it looks like they're able to stabilize. And now it looks like they're missing Ben Johnson with Dan Campbell calling plays. I think I talked about this before, but I'm just not sure how aggressive Detroit should be when it comes to going on fourth down, because it just does not look like they have it this season. I mean, if you're a good fourth down team, then yeah, go for it on fourth down, because even if it comes back to bite you a little bit, I think overall, I'm sure the analytics will say that it all evens out. And if you're aggressive on fourth down and you're good at going for it on fourth down, you should be in pretty good shape. But Detroit sucks going for it on fourth down. So I think they should probably stop it. It's very evident that Dan Campbell doesn't have it when it comes to going for it on fourth and short yardage situations. But they did come down. Detroit did, and they had a 5-play, 71-yard touchdown drive to make it 24-21. But the defense was very disappointing for the Lions, and they couldn't do anything when it mattered the most to give their offense a shot at winning the game. Green Bay went up 31-21, and Detroit gets the ball back. They go for it on 4th and 3 at Green Bay's 21-yard line, and you practically had to go for it. While kicking the field goal would be nice, Detroit's defense wasn't doing jack, so I can understand why they wanted to be aggressive. And at that point in the game, you have to be aggressive. There's just no choice. And at 4th and 3, Jamison Williams just drops the ball, and that practically ends it. The Lions defense, they deserve an F for that game. They really didn't do much at all. Jordan Love was able to air the ball out. He got 0 sacks. He only faced 2 QB pressures. I mean, that's pathetic considering that defensive line has Aiden Hutchinson and Green Bay has some injuries on the offensive line. I'm shocked how Jordan Love was just able to sit back and just in the pocket and just survey the defense. That was insane. And he had on average 3.09 seconds time to throw, which is pretty damn good. But Green Bay's defense, on the other hand, they deserve an A because they were able to get after Goff. 3 sacks, 46.7 pressure rate. Micah Parsons, he definitely earned his check, and he definitely proved why Green Bay made the right decision in trading for him. He had 2.5 sacks and 3 TFLs. And now Detroit is 7-5 and Green Bay is 8-3-1. And I talked about this in the previous segment. Detroit is massively screwed up. They face Dallas next week, and Dallas is looking really, really hot. I just think they're out of the playoffs race. If they lose against Dallas, they can kiss their chances practically goodbye. They already lost against Green Bay twice, and they honestly need to win out, and I just don't think Detroit is capable of doing that. And this has just not been a good Campbell coaching season whatsoever. He evidently made the wrong mistake in promoting John Warren as their offensive coordinator, and he probably should have looked externally. I understand wanting to promote your own guys, but it was evident that he was not the guy as the offensive coordinator. And Detroit, they're going to have to look towards a new offensive coordinator. Detroit has a pretty hard schedule. Dallas, LA, the Rams, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Chicago. And Chicago is playing really, really well. I'll talk more about that later. Green Bay, though, I was wrong about them. It looks like they're going to actually make the playoffs. I've just been up and down on Green Bay all season. First 2 games of the season when they faced Detroit and Washington, I'm like, oh my God, this team is Super Bowl bound. And then they had a little bit of a lull, losing against the Panthers, losing against Cleveland. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, it looks like this team is up and down and doesn't have any identity. And I'm still not sure about Green Bay. I mean, I think they'll probably make the playoffs, but I'm still not sure how far they can exactly go. They got to show a lot more consistency until I can really believe in them as true NFC contenders. But they have a chance to prove themselves because they got Chicago twice, they got Denver. So in those 3 games, we'll really see what Green Bay is about. Now I want to talk about Philly and Chicago. The Bears won 24-15, and yeah, I talked about how Detroit is really suffering from losing Ben Johnson, and he definitely showed it against Philadelphia because he was awesome, especially in the running game. and calling up plays there. Manang Nai had 22 carries for 130 yards. DeAndre Swift had 18 carries for 125 yards. Caleb Williams wasn't really spectacular at all. 17 for 36, 154 yards, one touchdown, one interception. He missed a couple of layups in the end zone and just in general in the game, which is still something that he needs to work on. He just misses the simple, easy throws. That's why I'm just not high on the ceiling of this team, because I just think Caleb Williams misses too many throws and he's just still a work in progress at quarterback. But for this game, it didn't matter because Chicago came to play. Philly, on the other hand, didn't come to play. I hate watching this offense. I actually hope they miss the playoffs because their offense absolutely stinks, and it's just hard on the eyes. Even though Jalen Hurts, it looked like he had a decent stat line, 19 for 34, 230 yards, two touchdowns, and one interception. A.J. Brown once again got his stats, 10 receptions for 132 yards. But honestly, it wasn't until the last drive where they just needed to air the ball out where it looked like they had a great passing offense. Saquon Barkley is still struggling, 56 yards, just not impressive. I mean, the O-line obviously isn't impressive, especially with Lane Johnson being out with the Liz Frank injury, but it still isn't an excuse to look this freaking bad. And honestly, even when the offensive line was healthy, it still looked like Philadelphia didn't have anything going offensively for the most part this season. They were pathetic on third down, 4 for 12. At one point in the game, they were 1 for 8. Jalen Hurts, 19.5 quarterback rating. I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do with that other than just take it that he played pretty badly. Chicago's running game just ran roughshod over Philly's defense, which obviously isn't great, but Philly, their offense, they still had opportunities to swing the momentum of this game, and they simply couldn't do it. I just don't understand how you can have all pros on your O-line, and I'm not talking about this game. I'm just talking generally in the season, and you have all pros as wide receivers. You have a pretty good tight end and Dallas Goedert, and you're still very, very bad, and you still looked very inept offensively. This Philly team is giving me 2023 vibes. They can definitely choke and go on a landslide and give the Cowboys a chance to win the division. And like I said before, I hope they miss the playoffs because I just don't like watching their offense. And I would much rather see Dallas in the playoffs and see their offense and Dak airing it out to CD Lamb and George Pickens and them being explosive than watching whatever the hell I have to watch with Philadelphia. Nick Sirianni, he's just not that guy. I know he won a Super Bowl, but I think there are many coaches who could have won a Super Bowl with that roster. And to be fair, there are many coaches who are very bad and who probably couldn't have won a Super Bowl with that roster, and that includes many X's and O's geniuses. But in the grand scheme of things, I just don't think he's the answer. He's very, very reliant on coordinators, and if one of the coordinators is bad, it just doesn't look like he can do anything to fix it. I mean, he's supposed to be an offensive guy, and this offense with Kevin Patullo just looks very, very rudimentary. It looks like a high school offense, to be honestly. And Jalen Hurts, I know he's limited as a quarterback, and he isn't the most perfect quarterback in the world, but my God, he's not this bad. And I know it's crazy, but you just got to get him a new coach, and you probably should get an offensive guy. And another reason why I hope they make the playoffs is so that, I know it's mean to say, but they need to get rid of Sirianni, go in another direction, because otherwise if they make the playoffs, they're going to fool themselves into thinking, oh, it was just another down year. We can get right back up on the horse and give Sirianni another year, and he'll turn it around like he did in 2024, the year after, where it looks like they had a meltdown. But I don't know. I'm just not that keen on Sirianni at all. I mean, it's crazy how if one of the coordinators doesn't work, the whole thing completely goes to waste. I mean, I guess he has some leadership ability. Actually, I won't say I guess. He does have some leadership ability for sure. But other than that, he just does not do much in terms of scheme. I mean, with Shane Steichen, they had a great scheme going, and that offense looked great. And then under Brian Johnson, it was horrible. And now with Kevin Patullo, it looks horrible. So I don't know what Philly's going to do. I mean, I'm going to presume that they're probably going to give Sirianni another shot at it, although Howie is very aggressive in making moves. But yeah, I just don't know why you should keep him around, especially when you're Howie Roseman, and you've done a great job of putting this roster together and just making great moves and everything, and you just have a coach who can put it all together. And if there's one uh, weakness about Howie Roseman. It just looks like he's not very good when it comes to hiring head coaches. I mean, he had Chip Kelly. Doug Peterson was good. He was able to win a Super Bowl, so obviously that isn't a total flop, but still, it's you had to fire him at a certain point, and at Jacksonville he got the boot, and now with Nick Sirianni, it's just blah. But luckily, you've been able to put great rosters together, and that's why you've been able to win. I want to move on now to Baltimore and Cincinnati. Cincinnati won 32-14. Joe Burrow is finally back after that turf toe injury. Looked a little bit rusty, which is to be expected. 24-46, 261 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Lamar, on the other hand, did not look very good, and he did not have 0 interceptions. He was pretty bad. 17 for 32, 246, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. But the man had 3 turnovers, 2 fumbles, and an interception. And to be fair to Lamar, there was a touchdown that got wiped away because Isaiah likely didn't cross the goal line with the ball. But it wasn't totally like Adonai Mitchell or DeMarcado with the Cardinals where they just threw the ball away. Jordan Battle just knocked it out of Likely's hands, but Likely could have done a better job of protecting the ball. So I'm not going to totally exonerate him. Lamar's been back for 5 weeks now. This is the first L they've taken, but in that span that he's been back, he's only had 5 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, and 4 of those touchdowns came against Miami. He's thrown under 200 yards in 3 of those games. He's not rushing the ball the same at all. The highest rush yards he had was against Cleveland, which was like 26 yards. And if Lamar Jackson isn't healthy, and he's not able to play up to par, then the season is practically over, even if you do make the playoffs. Because at this point, the Ravens aren't interested in making the playoffs. They've already done that for many years now. They want to advance far in the postseason and just make a Super Bowl. But I don't know. Lamar does not look the same. And with the offense just looking as bad and pedestrian as it is, I just don't know how you can trust the Ravens in a big playoff situation. And the Ravens still have a good chance of making the playoffs because Pittsburgh just flat out sucks. I'll talk about them some other time, but woof, that was rough against Buffalo. I mean, they were god awful, and Buffalo's offense isn't anything special either. But I don't know. After having like what 3 points at the half, Buffalo was able to put a spanking on Pittsburgh's defense, and Pittsburgh's defense absolutely stinks. Even though the front office has spent like $170 million on them, and they have all pros, but despite that, they stink. I think Mike Tomlin has to go, but again, I'll talk about that some other time. The Ravens go as Lamar goes. He's the best player on that team. Yeah, Baltimore in the past, their defense has been a big identity of their team, just being physical, but Lamar's the best player and their leader. And of course, you have to have a good defense to win a championship, but as an offense, you got to be able to hold your own, even if your defense is elite. They get a 10-day break before they play Pittsburgh. Like I said, Pittsburgh's defense absolutely sucks, and Pittsburgh just stinks as a team. Hopefully, they should be able to look better that game. If they're not able to look good, in that game after having a 10-day break, I don't know what to do for you. I would suggest sitting Lamar probably for a week if you're able to win against Pittsburgh, just so that he can get right, honestly. And you don't have to worry about that costing you in the division because this division is up for grabs. Cincinnati, though, on the other hand, lots of people are saying they got a chance, and I think they have a puncher's chance, but they just got to win out. The Steelers, like I said, can absolutely melt down. And if Lamar isn't healthy, then you can absolutely potentially beat out Baltimore, and Baltimore can lose some games. But since he has some tough games coming up, they got Buffalo, and of course they got Baltimore. They also got Miami, Arizona, and Cleveland, and those aren't exactly good teams, but those aren't exactly gimme wins, especially Cleveland with that defense and Myles Garrett. So they got a shot. If I had to bet, 10 wins will probably get Baltimore or Pittsburgh in the division lead, and that'll probably win them the division. But I have to think that only Baltimore or Pittsburgh will be able to get 10 wins. I don't think both of those teams are going to be able to get 10 wins. And if I had to bet, it's probably going to be Baltimore who will get 10 wins because Pittsburgh, they're just falling off a cliff. And that's just typical Mike Tomlin, where the team just starts off hot and then they just fall off a cliff. But anyways, I want to move on to some better AFC teams. I want to talk about Indiana and Houston. Indiana won 20-16. I got to give CJ Stroud credit. Even though his stat line wasn't the most impressive, 22 for 35, 276 yards, zero touchdowns, one interceptions, but he was facing a lot of pressure. He faced like 19 QB pressures. That offensive line hasn't been good, and for him to continue to like make big throws is impressive in of itself. He was able to make game-winning plays, and Houston's defense, they had Daniel Jones in hell, 14 of 27. He was 201 yards, and they also held Jonathan Taylor under 100 yards rushing. It was 85 yards, but still impressive to hold him under 100 yards rushing. Now, Indy is one game ahead of Houston in terms of the division lead, and I never thought this would happen. I thought Indy pretty much had wrapped up their division, especially when CJ Stroud went out with a concussion and they were having to rely on Davis Mills, but Davis Mills came up big for them. So kudos to Houston. They never gave up, and it looks like they have a shot of reclaiming this division. And I did predict before the season that Houston would win the division, but Indy still has a shot. But Daniel Jones, I'm really, really concerned about him. I've talked about this before. He's just proving that unless he has a good running game, then he can only like ball out. Other than that, he really just can't function. And honestly, he just reminds me of a better version of Ryan Tannehill, honestly, where Ryan Tannehill was able to have Derrick Henry carry the load and he was able to make some throws here and there. I think Daniel Jones is a better thrower of the football than Ryan Tannehill is, but he's just Ryan Tannehill like. And these next games will show what Indianapolis is really like and who they really are. Uh, if they can go 3-2 or 4-1 or heck even undefeated, that'll be great. You got Jacksonville twice, you got Houston again, you got San Francisco and Seattle. All of those teams have winning records, and other than Houston, every single one of those teams are in the playoff picture. So if they can go 3-2, I think that should be pretty good. But if they have a losing record, then Houston's got a chance of coming back against Indianapolis and just winning the division and making it into the dance. And it just feels like, I don't know, I feel that teams have a blueprint to beat the Colts. We'll see if Shane Steichen and Daniel Jones are able to adjust. But I got to give Houston credit once again. I'm really, really impressed with how CJ Stroud is playing. I know it hasn't been a great season for him so far, and like he's kind of taken a little bit of a dip since his rookie season, but I still think he's being very, very resilient considering the fact that his offensive line isn't very good. But I'm going to hold on to my belief of Indy. I still think they can pull it out. Houston's offensive line in CJ is facing constant pressure, and I think that's going to be their undoing. Even though Houston has a hellacious defense, I still think Houston's going to struggle a bit. They may make the playoffs, but I'm just not sure yet that they're going to win the division, and I'm going to have to give the nod to the Colts. Now, lastly, I want to talk about Lane Kiffin. After a couple weeks of this saga, it's been announced that he's going to be taking the LSU job, and he's going to be the new head coach there. His time at Ole Miss is officially over, and I just don't understand how coaches in college football can just flat out get out of their contracts. You can't do that in the pros. Like, the Giants can't poach Sean Payton or any other elite coach if they wanted to, but it just seems like in college football, when there's an opening, they can poach whatever coach they want to. And with Lane Kiffin, this is just a part of the Lane Kiffin experience. When he leaves, he just leaves with a bang, and the guy simply just isn't loyal. He left Tennessee after a year to coach USC, and they were so bad his few years there that he got fired at the tarmac. Then he took the offensive coordinator job under Nick Saban, and after year 4, Saban fired him because he felt like he wasn't concentrating on Alabama, and he fired him a week before the national championship, which I have to imagine is pretty much unheard of. And he took the new head coaching job at FAU at the time. Few years at FAU, does a pretty good job there, then goes to Ole Miss, and now they're championship contenders. And I just find it annoying that he just can't stick at a place too long. I understand why you want to take the LSU job. It's just a bigger place. I mean, that stadium sits about 102,000 people. I'm sure the NIL money, is just much, much better there. But at LSU, they have a storied history. I mean, the past few of their head coaches have won national championships, except Brian Kelly. And with a school with a storied history like that, I don't understand why you just don't want to stick at Ole Miss, be a god there, and if you win a national championship there, they'll erect a statue of you right then and there. And at LSU, if you just win a national championship there, you're just another guy and you're doing what you're supposed to do. It's kind of like with Kalen DeBoer. You can be a god at UW, and if you win a national championship there, you can be a god in the Pacific Northwest, which is a pretty good market and a much bigger market. But if you go to Alabama and you win a national championship where Nick Saban won like six of those things, five of those things, whatever, you're just doing what you're supposed to do now. And DeBoer has struggled. They're good now, obviously, but they've just been rocky so far. Let's see if they're able to keep it up. And the grass isn't always greener on the other side. I mean, look at Lincoln Riley. He bolted Oklahoma for big USC, and he hasn't done jack there. And I don't think they've even been to the playoffs, despite having one of the best QB prospects ever there. So Lincoln Riley, he has crazy resources at USC and hasn't done jack. And nobody talks about his job security enough. I can understand why the AD at Ole Miss didn't want Lane Kiffin to stick around. I guess their mentality is, if you don't want to be here, fine, go take your ass somewhere else. We're going to stick with the people that do want to be here, and we just don't want it being a distraction throughout the season, even more than it is now. So I can understand why he just said no, and it doesn't make sense for him to stick around there with him taking that job. If I had to guess, though, I think Lane Kiffin will do a very good job at LSU. The man can coach. There's no doubt about it. And he's had a history of turning programs around, but the guy simply isn't loyal. I mean, what happens if the USC job opens up? I know that it may be tough for USC to take him after his history there, but who knows what happens if USC poaches Kiffin at LSU, or what happens if Oregon poaches Kiffin at LSU if they fire Dan Lanning, and Oregon has crazy resources with that Phil Knight NIL money. The guy has just shown that he's going to climb the ladder, and he's just going to bolt for every opportunity that he can get. And I don't think it's probably a done deal that he's going to stick around at LSU. If any other bigger job opens up like USC or Oregon, he's going to bolt for that opportunity, because that's just what his history has shown. And any other job in America, I'm just good with like bolting for the next opportunity. I don't think you need to show any loyalty to these corporations, but in a place where you can have success, I just don't know why you don't stick it out, and I just don't know why people just always leave. I mean, I can understand in some cases why you leave. If you're stuck in like a small Division 1 college, just bolt for the next opportunity. I wouldn't mind that. But in a place like Ole Miss, where you can show that like you can build a good program there, or in Kalen DeBoer's case at UW, where you can show you can build a good winning program there, why not stick around? I just don't understand. But I got to shout out Kurt Cignetti. Once James Franklin got fired at Penn State, there was a lot of talk about, oh, maybe Kurt Cignetti can leave Indiana and he can go to Penn State. And Penn State is definitely a much better job than Indiana. But he shut that down immediately. He signed an extension and was like, I want to build a winner at Indiana. And Indiana is a basketball school, not a football school. But so far, he's showing that you can win at Indiana. And he's proving his loyalty. And he's like, no, I want to win here. So kudos to him. Guys like Kurt Cignetti are just rare in this day and age. And when all these other coaches, they just want to bolt for the next opportunity. And they just don't care about winning at certain programs. But it is what it is. And college football is just a clusterfuck. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys. I will be back Friday to break down Thursday night football between Dallas and Detroit, and talk about some of the NFL games going on this Sunday and some other storylines. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Please like and subscribe, and thanks for listening.